Gents, what surprises me a little bit when you look at the NFCs, it's the G-Men and Brian Dable. Now, they didn't make the playoffs. They won a game last year, and then they got thwarted by the Eagles. Lost all 3 times, by the way, when they played the Eagles a year ago. So they're a 9-win team, and yet the total this year is 8.5. I mentioned how I think the conference just as a whole is not that good. Matt, what do you make of Danny Dimes now that they've committed to him? They gave him a new deal. Didn't have to do that. Brian Dable always seems like begrudgingly, says, yeah, the quarterback played well, but so did the other guy. It's like he never gives him.
Well, there's a reason for that. You always want your starting quarterback to feel like he's got to continue to play well. He can't rest. You like cliches, right? He can't rest on his laurels.
I love cliches.
Okay. Danny Dimes, you got to motivate a quarterback like that and feel like he's got to keep proving himself, right? So you got to keep him on edge. I don't think Brian Dable was probably building him up with confidence behind the scenes and saying, we believe in you, you can do it. I've always felt like Daniel Jones is a little bit underrated. He's a really good athlete, and a lot of people don't realize how good an athlete he is. Now, he's turned the ball over too much, but, hey, young quarterbacks do that in the NFL. Brian Dable is one of those guys. Some coaches get reputations as quarterback whisperers, offensive geniuses, and they don't deserve the label. He deserves it. Look what Dable did with Josh Allen in Buffalo. He's doing the same thing right now with somewhat the same thing with Daniel Jones.
Cured some of his fumble woes throughout his entire career that Daniel Jones has had. But interesting nuance here on the schedule. The New York Football Giants have 4 primetime games in the first 6 weeks. The Cowboys, the 49ers, Seattle, and they also have a primetime game. That is a primetime game at Buffalo in week number 6, so Sunday Night Football game. So we're going to find out, I think, very early on with the Giants. And one of the things that you notice for week-to-weeks with the bettors, casual bettors especially value primetime games a little bit more because that's the game everybody is watching, whether it's Monday night or Sunday night. So keep that in mind, maybe some overreaction early. Like if the Giants get a big win early on a primetime game, that could be a fade spot the very next week against maybe a lower grade opponent.
You know what's interesting too, Wes? You look at sandwich spots in the schedule. Giants open against the Cowboys. They go to Arizona in week 2, and week 3 they're at San Francisco. So that week 2 game's kind of like a sandwich spot between the Cowboys and the Niners.
That's what I was referring to.
And the Giants are 4-point road favorites at DraftKings in that week 2 game. That's going to be a tricky spot for the Giants.
Go Colt McCoy.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.